Blessed Gift, Story 7, Youth's Indelible Mark, by Winnie. At journey's end, the brown dirt beneath my feet and the cloudless sky that stretched to infinity above me were the boundaries of my home for a day and a night. My dusty backpack across my shoulders attested to the many days I had spent traveling in a plane, by train, in buses and on foot, especially on foot. Indeed, being a worthy mark of my long journey. Despite the muck all over our faces, the sight that beheld us when we arrived on the Monte de Gozo, Hill of Joy, on the morning of the 19th of August, 1989, drove our tiredness away. For we knew we had the fellowship of thousands and thousands of young and not so young people from every continent who had come like us for the 4th World Youth Day in Santiago de Compostela in Spain, the burial ground of St. James the Apostle, with the theme for that year's encounter being, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I was there with a small contingent from England, where I was at university, and we had gathered in Covadonga to join other friends and members of the Theresian Association from Italy, Spain, Portugal, and France on our own mini pilgrimage, before setting forth on the journey to our final destination for the World Youth Day. How we bridged the language barrier I shall never understand, but in a couple of days the ice was broken and new friends were made. We were once again just a bunch of youth, sharing meals and the Eucharist together, as well as our dreams and hopes for the future and our desire to know God better. Each Eucharistic celebration was truly a universal expression of our faith. We sang hymns to praise God in many languages, and of course, we exchanged smiles and hugs to celebrate our newfound friendships. We moved on to Leon, where the group got bigger, and finally to where we would begin our own walking pilgrimage. With sleeping bags strapped to our well-laden backpacks containing spare clothes, food, and water, we started on the Camino de Santiago, the road to Santiago, in the spirit of St. James the Great. Along the way, during our group discussions and times of reflection, we were invited to write our own version of the Lord's Prayer, presenting the needs of the world and asking forgiveness for what we perceived as our reality of sin and anti-values. Then we had to write our creed, putting in what we believed in and wanted to reaffirm as our goals for the future. And finally, we had to write our own beatitudes, relevant to our lives then. It was tiring. It was sweaty. It was hot in the day and cold at night. By the end of our dusty walk each day, we had become several shades darker. We had become wanderers with no fixed abode. One of the nights was spent in a cleaned-out cattle shed, and another in army-style barracks with interesting communal showering facilities. But even the cold showers at the end of each day were warmly welcomed. Above all, it was a journey of discovery for each one of us. There were about 500,000 people gathered on the Monte de Gozo by the afternoon of the 19th of August. At first sight of the Pope Mobile, We shouted as one, "Papa! Papa!" Hands wildly waving, arms reaching out. We laughed, we cried. We could hardly believe it was really happening. It was worth every effort I had made to be there. It was an incredible time of grace. It was an incredible event, forever stored in my memory. When Pope John Paul II turned his kindly, smiling face in my direction, I raised my camera for a quick shot and successfully captured an image of that cherished, saintly face. On that last night of the World Youth Day, our home was a bare patch of soil. But even the seemingly desolate surroundings could not lessen our excitement. People danced and sang around little campfires, and the air buzzed with anticipation for the morning when the papal mass would be celebrated. Late into the night, we wearily laid out our sleeping bags on the bare ground, for they were all we had to sleep in. In the midst of these humble conditions, God still used the opportunity to teach us a valuable lesson that night. The next morning, when we peeled open our sleepy eyes, we discovered that in the silent, still night, the dew had moistened the ground, and we had all unknowingly slid about 2 meters down the damp hill in our sleeping bags during the night. We learned from this that even the patch of ground beneath us as we had soundly slept the night before was not ours to own. In that case, what else in the world was worthy of our attachment? But we were not discouraged at all. We were energized, because what followed was the spiritual feast that we had all been waiting for, the outdoor Mass with the Holy Father that would be attended by 500,000 people. How we wanted it to go on forever, a beautiful moment to be frozen in time. How could we fail to be changed? How could we fail to live out our dreams for the future? How could we fail to believe in a God who loves us so dearly? Pope John Paul II reminded us once again to seek the truth and ask the Lord to help us grow in true freedom. He said, "Do not be afraid of this freedom with which Christ has liberated us. It will guide your moral behavior towards truth and charity. It will help you discover true love, unspoilt by an alienating and harmful permissiveness." He exhorted us to be witnesses of Christ to those around us, in school and at university, in the factory and at other workplaces, at work and even during our free time. He said, "Let the youth of today be the true protagonists of more human ways of life." Dear young men and women, give yourselves up to Jesus, for Christ alone is the way. Christ alone is the truth, and Christ alone is the life. As I write this, I am already over 50. How grateful I am to the Lord that in the days of my youth, I was so blessed to have been able to participate in World Youth Day, an experience that left such a beautiful mark on my life. I truly believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.